the rustle of grass, the clatter of hoofs, the whistle of string, and the whiff of a step wind that fell into a hollow stem. All these sounds that surrounded our ancestors. Listening, people learned to play them, inventing a variety of musical instruments. Mobile, lightweight, and convenient for nomadic life. It's a project about musical instruments created by the great nomadic civilization. The lands of the ancient Chorism, Sogdiana and Bactria. From time immemorial, a variety of civilizations were born here, flourished and fell into decay, and each of them left a deep mark in the history of Uzbek culture. Today Uzbekistan is the heir to the richest alloy of cultures of many peoples, which is reflected in painting, applied art, and of course, folk music. The formation of the oldest oral musical and poetic creativity took place in close connection with the development of folk instruments. This is evidenced by archaeological finds discovered in the Republic. The oldest find of a musical instrument in Central Asia was found in Surkhandarya. It is called sibizga. It is so small, there is a rhombus in the middle from where the air comes out and dates back to the 13th millennium BC. This suggests that music was even before our era. When music appeared, no one knows, because how a person appeared, he tried to make sounds like birds, animals, and so on. Because it is known that from time immemorial, music was most often used in various ritual rites. Scientists attribute the harp to ritual instruments played by peoples living in antiquity on the territory of modern Uzbekistan. Its image is often found on the ossuaries, which belong to the Zoroastrian religion. If we take a good look, these ossuaries have images of an angel playing the harp. Their music also played an important role, because when they buried, there was music. And according to their philosophy, there is such a version that an angel in the another world calms the soul of a dead person before questioning him about his good, bad deeds. Other artifacts found during excavations of the ancient settlement Afrasiab, as well as on the territory of the Surkhandarya region, also speak of the sacred meaning of music and musical instruments. Uzbek scientists discovered several plaques with the image of ancient musicians. These small figures too had a ritual character. They are very small and are found in burials. Apparently, the image of instruments was present in order to send the person to another world. They accompanied the deceased. These terracotta figurines, found in the sites of Dalverdin and Kampertepa, Scientists date the findings to the beginning of the first millennium AD. Thanks to these images, today we can have an idea of musical instruments that were in use during the period when Buddhism was spread in Central Asia. Most often on terracotta plaques, there are lutes, harps, and flutes.
А это полная фигура с очень хорошо сохранившимся инструментом, по которому мы можем себе представлять.
And this is a complete figure with a very well preserved instrument, according to which we can imagine the shapes of these lutes. They were different. They were round, absolutely round. They were pear-shaped, elongated. They could be with 4 strings, 3 strings. And a very important detail, namely the lutes of Central Asian origin, are of a short neck and a bent head.
Это короткая шейка и загнутая головка.
We all know that this is a European instrument. In the countries of the Middle East, Caucasus, and Central Asia, a similar string-plucked instrument is known as oud. But few people know that it is oud that is the forerunner of the lute, and then the guitar. Moreover, scientists are sure, in turn, the oud was borrowed by the Arabs from the peoples of Central Asia. Indeed, in Arabic sources, mention of oud occurs in the 7th century, while terracotta figurines of musicians with lutes date back to 1st, 3rd centuries.
Наши ученые, которые инструментами занимались, делают вот такой вывод, что, возможно, арабский уд,
Our scientists, who are engaged in instruments, conclude that perhaps the Arabian oud did not come here, but as the form was borrowed from here. Because you understand, we say lute. This is a conditional name.
Потому что само слово «лютня» произошло от «аль-уд». От «аль-уд». Вызга считает, что вот этот вот инструмент, он...
Because the word lute itself came from al-ud. Tamara Visgo believes that this instrument, with such a short neck and a bent head, it was borrowed by the Arabs and then got through the Arabs to Western Europe.
Вот там уже, аль-уд...
And there already al-ud began to speak loud, hence the lute. The oud consists of 3 parts: the body in the form of a pear, a short fretless neck, and a head. All of them are made from different varieties of wood.
Веку пользуемся это из ели. Чинар тоже можно.
We use spruce on the deck. The plane tree is also possible. Some details are made of these materials.
Основной гриф, например, вот гриф делается из ореха.
The main neck, for example, is made from walnut, also from apricot, because they are strong, solid.
Твердые, крепкие они. Корпус тоже. Корпус иногда.
The main case is made from the mulberry tree. It sounds good.
Она хорошо звучит.
Tahir Mirzaev is a hereditary master of musical instruments. String, plucked, and bowed instruments were made by both father and great-grandfather of Tahir. Therefore, this person knows firsthand that a good instrument requires time and painstaking work. After all, it is made from properly dried wood, and sometimes the life of one master is not enough for this process.
Этот гриф почти 50 лет уже сохранялся.
This is almost 50 years old, preserved, because it dries for so long. In 4 or 5 years it can be done, but then it will bend.
Потом согнуться будет. Мой отец собрал эти. Давно у меня подвале.
My father collected these wood for a long time. In the basement of my father's old house, his supplies are preserved. And now I collect too. My son can do it. He's also studying.
Мой сын, может, он тоже учится.
The master seemed to breathe a living soul into a withered piece of wood, and this gave it immortality. Centuries have passed, and musical instruments continue to live to this day, occupying a special place in the Uzbek culture. Music, and with it musical instruments, played a special role in the East, and in particular in the territory of modern Uzbekistan. Musical culture was displayed in medieval miniatures, scholars wrote about it, and studied it not only from the point of view of art, but also from the position of exact sciences. As a result, Oriental music acquired a classical form. Its bright manifestation is considered such a genre as maqam. Maqam is an original genre that includes cycles of instrumental and vocal works. In the musical culture of the Middle East, maqam is a living spiritual heritage. It is preserved and enriched in the artistic culture of many people. These are Arab maqams, Azerbaijani mugams, Uyghur maqams, Uzbek Tajik maqams, and Turkish maqams. All of them together receive the name Oriental maqamat. This is due to the fact that the composition of the cycle, structure, musical patterns and performance characteristics are close to each other. Professional classical music was formed in the 1st-2nd century, but the word maqam did not exist. But this does not mean that there was no classical music. It was. The word maqam was introduced by the great Abu Nasr al-Farabi in the 9th century. Maqam was taken from Arabic. The word means home, position, place. It was precisely this meaning that he put in his scientific musical works. That is, every sound, every tone, every fret construction has its place and position. His followers were Abu Ali ibn Sina and Ibn Zayla. Abu Ali ibn Sina even prescribed music for the mentally sick people. He calmed their soul through music. The nerves of a man calmed down, so to speak, and they recovered. Melodies of maqam convey the deepest feelings of a person. You can listen to maqam endlessly, because each overflow is unique. It fascinates and reassures at the same time. As a large cyclic form, this genre crystallized in the 18th century. In the territory of modern Uzbekistan in the 19th-20th centuries, it reached its peak and was divided into 3 style traditions. Bukhara Shash Maqam, a cycle of 6 maqams, it comes from Tajik Shash 6, Khorazm Maqam, and Fergana Tashkent Maqam. In those days, maqam were very complex in structure, and now it is complex too. There were a lot of level modal constructions, and it was studied. The sequence of these modal constructions was studied exclusively by mathematical methods on the level of sciences like astronomy. It was like a science. We know that maqam has 2 sections, musical and vocal, mushkilot and navo. In each section, it is divided into several parts, and in each of them, there are from 70 or more musical and vocal works. For example, if you take maqam, different books have different versions. In some, closer to 300 pieces of music, and closer to 500 pieces of music. The unique art of makom, which has developed over the centuries thanks to the talents and works of great poets, philosophers and musicians, is popular not only in Uzbekistan, but also in many countries of the East. A vivid confirmation of this is the recognition by UNESCO of the Central Asian Shashmakom as an intangible cultural heritage. The classical ensemble of makom consists of a pair of stringed instruments, for example, tambur, rubab or tara, one bowed, Uzbeks called gijag, flutes, nai, and necessarily a tambourine called doira. Doira, percussion musical instrument, has the form of a large wooden rim, covered with a leather membrane on one side. Metal rings located on the inside of the instrument. Their number can vary from 40 to 100. The sound is extracted by blows of the fingers of both hands and palms on the membrane. A blow to the middle of the doira gives a low and dull sound, and near the shell a higher and louder one. The sound of metal pennants joins the main sound. It is the doira that sets the basic form and rhythm of the makom. The most beautiful musical instrument is the human voice. You ask why then you need dutars, nai, gijag, and I will tell you why we need them, in order to brighten up and emphasize the human voice even more. But you say, how to choose a rhythm? For this we have vein pulse beat. Take a strong share of the blow. And we continue. Do you understand? Makom is part of our body, part of our soul. Initially, there was no tradition to record doira rhythms and notes. In antiquity, mentors, performers taught usuli doira orally. That is, they practically showed it in the style of individual lessons, so future dorais remembered it. For the first time, beats and measures for doira set out on paper can be found in the musical treatise Kitab al-Musika al-Kabir, which was written by Abu Nasr al-Farabi. Today, a whole museum is dedicated to the art of makom in Uzbekistan. It is located in the ancient city of Shahrisabz. Shahrisabz is the place where the great Amir Timur was born. The period of his reign is characterized by a special flowering of architecture, poetry, and of course, musical art. To this day, craftsmen who know ancient secrets of making musical instruments live in the city. One of them is Toychi Isakov.
Bu ham juda eng qadimiy muzika asboblaridan bo'lib, albatta birinchi cho'ponlarda taraqqiy etgan. Ular mana osmonda uchadi g'ajir qushlar. Mana katta qushlar bo'ladi. Qanoti bu tomonga 1 metr. Ana shularni qanotini eng asosiy joyidan suyaklar.
This is nai, one of the oldest instruments. Initially, it was spread among shepherds. In ancient times, it was made from the wing bones of a steppe eagle. Do you imagine the size? And those naias had only 4 holes. Nai was also made from reeds, as well as copper. Toychi Isakov is a hereditary usto, which means a master. One way or another, his ancestors were always associated with music. According to Toychi, there was even a folk ensemble of the Isakov family in Shahrisabz. Today, a 76-year-old master is working on a dombra instrument. It is similar in form and sound to the Kazakh dombra. Toychi Isakov also makes the traditional Uzbek dutar, which also has 2 strings. hence the name means due to tar string.
Dutar uyma ha. O'zi o'yma dutar qilinmaydi. Hiç hali ko'rmaganmiz o'y.
This is a dutar with a body made of a single piece of wood. In general, few people cut this instrument. More often the construction is made up. Here a deck is attached separately. It is from a mulberry tree. And I made a neck from a plain tree. Head design is made by the master. I cut out such a shape so that each master has his own signature.
Shuni qilaman deb shuni qilib qo'yganman.
In the collections, as well as in the exposition of the Makom Museum, samples of string, plucked, plecter, and bow instruments are represented. Monuments of material culture, works of fine art, wall paintings, terracotta figurines, various miniatures confirm information about the existence of entire ensembles of folk instruments back in the 7th century. The Makom Museum was opened in 2018 as part of the first International Makom Art Festival. Here are photographs, musical instruments, musical notes that tell about the rich musical heritage of the country. A special place in the Makom Museum is given to the Soviet Uzbek composer, academician Yunus Rajabi. He collected, systematized, and recorded more than 1,500 folk songs and instrumental works that have been in people's memory for many centuries. The contribution of Yunus Rajabi in the preservation and development of Uzbek music is invaluable, since up to the 20th century there was no musical notation in Uzbekistan. Melodies and songs were passed from mouth to mouth. For this, it took him many years. He certainly worked with the great composer Viktor Uspensky, was also involved. Our own Hafizas, musicians, who helped him in this matter, were involved. The most important milestone in the development of Uzbek performing arts was 1947, when a department of folk instruments was opened at the Tashkent State Conservatory as part of the orchestra faculty. And in 1949, it became an independent faculty. So for the first time in the history of performance on folk instruments, vocational training and education of instrumentalists began. Today, the Mili Cholgu Research and Production Experimental Laboratory is working at the State Conservatory of Uzbekistan, where folk instruments are revived and improved.
Основными задачами сотрудников лаборатории является это собирание и изучение тембровых качеств и акустических возможностей национальных музыкальных
The main
инструментов.
tasks of laboratory staff are to collect and study the timbre qualities and acoustic capabilities of national musical instruments, as well as their improvement based on modern requirements in executive practice. The laboratory also consists of 3 components. The first part is the scientific one. The second workshop, where new designs and musical instruments of all kinds are made, and also where we are located, a museum of musical instruments.
Музей музыкальных инструментов.
A unique laboratory has been operating since 1943. During this time, dozens of folk instruments were recreated and modified by laboratory staff. The main goal of the specialists is to convey the rich heritage of the Uzbek musical culture to future generations. So the laboratory creates instruments for preschool children. 5-year-old and even 3-year-olds play music on miniature dutars, rubobs, doira, and gijaks. They say that music has always been the universal language of mankind. Coming from the depths of centuries, it inexplicably embodied the creative power that ennobles the soul. For the Uzbek people, this spiritual beginning, laid in the traditional genre of Makom, today continues its path, carrying oriental wisdom in every mode of an ancient musical instrument.